This little guy, I just moved it this spring, so it got set back a little bit, but it's an older seedling of mine that just seemed to hang on and survive and not get much disease. I kind of like the foliage. It's that kind of yellow-green matte foliage, and it's got yellow. It doesn't have any blooms on it right now. Reminiscent of Morden Sunrise, not as gorgeous as a Morden Sunrise blossom, but that kind of peachy yellow tones. It is probably a yellow seedling of Winnipeg Parks crossed with perhaps pink double knockout. But I used that a lot last year. And then this is All the Rage crossed with Above and Beyond. And it's got a nice orangey color. It looks a little more pink in the video when I'm on my phone. But and then a sister seedling of that one is this one here, which starts out with that nice coral orange color and then fades to pink, and it blooms heavily, a little bit wiry in its growth habit, but good health and hardiness on that, so I've used that quite a bit. This guy over here kind of represents what I'm looking for in terms of breeding for a shrubby form and an ever-blooming rose. This is also a number of years old, and it's stayed very healthy, and it blooms a lot, and it has that nice rounded shrubby form. If this was a bright pink, I'd probably consider it marketable, but it's just a really bland light pink. The seeds did not germinate very well, but I've used it as a pollen parent because it produces a lot of blossoms that can be collected for pollen. This row here, these are all siblings, and it's, I believe, Midnight Blue X, what I call PJOP 2, which is an open pollinated, heavier blooming seedling of Prairie Joy. And so, since Midnight Blue is not even close to being hardy here and not necessarily disease resistant, I think this shows good potential for that other parent, the PJOP, the open pollinated Prairie Joy seedling, for passing on good rebloom and hardiness and health. Not all of these are totally healthy. There's some black spots starting down there. And this is a very easy year for black spot. Not much black spot, unfortunately, this year. But those are in their second flush. This one here is doing pretty well. It's the seed parent is Prairie Joy X Rainbow Knockout, and the pollen parent is Commander Gillette, the Rose of Many Names. Some people call it Bossier's Thornless, some people call it Bossier's Legacy, and Kim Rupert claims that it's all the same rose, that thornless rose. So anyways, that can produce reblooming seedlings that are pretty nice. Behind it, that's a row of Out of the Blue X Sunny Knockout, and to me that shows that Sunny Knockout has some potential for creating some pretty healthy and relatively hardy roses. The blossoms are basically yellow, quickly fading to some sort of pink on most of these. So nothing marketable in this result, but I think Sunny Knockout has some potential for breeding. This red rose popped up in a row of seedlings that were open pollinated Ole, Lena, or Sven, the Northern Accent series from the U of M. And it was growing nearby a Candio rose. To me, this has obviously been crossed with Candio and really resembles it. The blossoms aren't as red, they're more of a rosy red color, but a nice second flush on that rose. Most of the other seedlings looked like this in that cross, which is much more like the seed parents, the Ole, Lena, and Sven. Over here, I know some people don't like these gaudy blossoms, but I actually really love that. This is Music Box X Lemon Fizz. Music Box does pretty well around here. It's above average hardiness and health. And then Lemon Fizz is very healthy, but never seems to bloom a lot. And it's a little borderline for hardiness. It dies back a little more than what you might want. More Lemon Fizz seedlings. This is Lemon Fizz X Petite Pink with that fine habit. The smaller leaves come from the Petite Pink. And then this guy down here, Lemon Fizz X Darlow's Enigma, which is interesting and healthy and glossy foliage and quite a few blooms that have some good yellow to them. That behind it is an open pollinated seedling of Lemon Fizz. Nothing spectacular there, but and then I think this is Lemon Fizz, this whitish one, Lemon Fizz X, a thornless white seedling of Lena. Here I have a row of several open pollinated Darlow's Enigma seedlings, and I think this shows that Darlow's Enigma has good potential as a parent. Good rebloom on this white one, and then these pink ones. Again, these were also growing near the Ole, Lena, and Sven, and it appears that they may have been crossed with them. But good hardiness and size for a bigger shrubby rose, and pretty good rebloom. Not all of them are healthy, but some of them are, and so I think that shows good potential for Darlow's Enigma. And then behind it here, one of my favorite little new seedlings. This is what I call bicolor poly. This is the one that the blossoms sometimes are a deep pink and sometimes they are white, and it doesn't appear to be fading or phototropism. It appears to me to be maybe the temperature of bud development that creates the differing colors. So perhaps in a warmer climate this would just be all white, but we took a bunch of cuttings off of this. That's why the shape isn't so great right now, but it was really gorgeous in its first flush of blossom. There's Lemon Fizz X Rosa Carolina or Rosa Virginiana, that kind of a ferny leaf and some very good vigor, and that surprised me by blooming this spring. This rose is Belle Poitevine X Commander Gillette, and it ended up being a rebloomer. Very glossy foliage that has been healthy so far. It's not completely thornless, but it's way less thorny than Belle Poitevine. There's some fairly large thorns in there, but not too many of them. If the blossoms lasted more than one day, I think this would be a nice looking shrub. It's not super fertile. It doesn't seem to set hips, although that looks like a hip. That would be really fun if it did, and then you could just grow open pollinated seedlings. But so far none of the hips have survived to maturity. I have gotten some pollen off of it, and a few hips are set with crosses this year. Another example of crossing some sort of rugosa with Commander Gillette. So we got almost thornless and ever blooming, but the blossoms are not many and they only last a short period of time. This rose is Rosa Foliolosa X Commander Gillette. I believe it's reasonably thornless and ever blooming. It seems to be ever blooming. I'm hoping it's not just a late extended bloom, but yeah, this is basically, no, there's a few thorns. It's almost thornless. The blossoms are just a single pink, of course, that lasts a short period of time, but it does have some fertility. So I'm hoping that you could cross this with some modern types and get a greater rebloom and greater blossom longevity. But it's still producing buds here in August. So I'm hoping that, and it was last year in October, it still had those flowers on it. So I'm hoping it's a true reblooming genetics on that one. One of the very few foliolosa seedlings I've kept. And some of the seedlings that germinated this spring, one of them that really interests me is this little guy here. It's tiny. It was open pollinated, a cross of Alla Twitter and Rosa virginiana, which was actually a huge plant that I now have in a pot so that it was able to bloom. And I just collected open pollinated seed, grew about 200 seedlings, of which exactly one was a juvenile bloomer. And indeed, I've picked off about 20 blossoms from this tiny little plant already this year in an attempt to help it grow a little more. It doesn't seem to know how to do anything but bloom. So it could be a very heavy bloomer if it is able to build itself up and remain healthy and all that. Some other seedlings from that Alla Twitter X virginiana plant. This is South Africa crossed with that plant. It appears to be a hybrid. And of course, the large majority of the seedlings were not rebloomers and were thrown away. This is Midnight Blue X, that plant. And you got a few bloomers there that appear to maybe be actual crosses. This is the seed parent was Gina's Rose X Rosa virginiana. So it was a once blooming F1 of the Virginianas, pollinated by Miracle on the Hudson. And again, the large majority were not rebloomers or juvenile bloomers, and this one was. So I picked it out, and I like it. It's got really healthy foliage and good vigor, and the blossoms don't last a long time, which is to be expected from the species parentage. But hopefully it gets some of the hardiness, some of the horizontal disease resistance from the Virginiana passed on to it. That seedling, the Gina's Rose X virginiana, is completely thornless. And this rose so far is also completely thornless. This row of seedlings are two of the seedlings I showed you earlier. The one that descended from a yellow Winnipeg Parks crossed with one that I showed you right after that, which was Above and Beyond, sorry, All the Rage X Above and Beyond. And those have produced some fairly nice seedlings. I'm just going to zoom by on the golf cart here and show you a few of them. Sometimes they've got pretty large blossoms. They seem to be heavy bloomers and good color saturation. That one ended up being yellow, which is nice. Fairly nice blossom on that one. In between flushes here. This little red one is Party Hardy X, the All the Rage X Above and Beyond seedling. And what I've noticed about that, the blossoms seem to last on the plant a very long time. And Prairie Joy crossed with that same parent, All the Rage X Above and Beyond. Also Prairie Joy crossed with that parent. So see how these develop as shrubs. Look at this guy. This is that All the Rage X blah blah blah. All the Rage X Above and Beyond crossed with Watercolors Home Run. Watercolors Home Run in this climate is a real dog. It gets Cercospora really bad and it's not that hardy, so whatever.